Welcome to episode 8, and today, as you can see from the title, the 2025 blueprint around goals that stick and results that last. Let's get into it then. So this one was an important episode I wanted to do. I was debating whether to release this between Christmas and New Year, because in all honesty, that's when most people will start to have a real think about what they want to achieve in 2025. And this is a very important conversation to have because not many people do it, let alone do it right. So what we're going to do in today's episode, under 30, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to say under 30 minutes. You'll be able to establish like a good game plan of what you should be doing around your goal setting and why it's sort of important. But before we get into that, let's sort of bring up some very scary statistics as to what happens when people start their goals, more around health and fitness. So 84% of those who started or had gym memberships come January, and the way that they were measuring this was frequency of how many times they logged in or walked through the gym doors and scanned their pass. There's also a big spike in members come January, but 84% of gym goers in January drop off by the middle of February. How sad is that? I brought this up in the last episode. I knew it was around about the 80% mark, but what is the reason for so many people to fall off? Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind for me. When I was kind of outlining for this episode, I was thinking to myself, why do most goals fail? Why do majority of people fail? So is it because the goal setting exercise is just a load of rubbish and doesn't work? Or is it to do with the types of goals that people set? Well, first thing that comes to mind is usually when you ask someone about their goals, it's too vague. It's not very specific. And I always like the analogy of the destination, right? Let's say there's somewhere we want to go in life, and that's our goal, okay? The goal is to do X. Now, the goal that people set for themselves, I want to be fit. Well, let's define fit. Let's define healthy. Let's define stronger. What is it? Let's get some actual objective metrics against those targets. And this is a conversation I have with every single client who say, I want to just look better and I want to feel better. Well, looking and feeling better can change on a day-to-day basis depending on what you see in that mirror and how your mentality is. So because they are very subjective metrics, let's try and get some objective metrics. And most people's goals, as I said here, too vague. I want to eat healthier. What does that look like? Is it 5 slices of pizza or is it 1 slice of pizza? Is it a salad? Like, what is the result that you're trying to get from this goal? And that's where I'll always bring this back to driving in a car. Do you want to drive to some particular destination? Well, the goal helps guide us, and it's not just mindlessly driving down the motorway to somewhere that you know is, like, let's say in this case, we need to go south because we want to get to London. Well, for me to drive there, I know what sort of roughly motorway I need to take through my life experiences, but the actual place, the building, the Citizen M at London Bridge, there's going to be more guidance that needs to steer me there. And that's what a goal does. The more specific the goal, the better accuracy and more efficient we can be in the plan that we have. The other thing is also realistic, or should I say unrealistic. Sometimes the goal is way beyond the reach, and because it's so far out, it becomes almost too challenging or too overwhelming to even make a start. On the last episode, if you haven't listened, then check that out. But I told the story of my brother when he was climbing a hill, and this is a great comparison to make. Seeing the top of the hill, you're already doubting yourself because previously, and maybe over the last 5, 10, 15 years, you've tried to start something and do it with good intentions, but then it's kind of circled back to your old behaviours. So in other words, you've quote unquote failed what it is you set out to do. So when you set this big goal, over the years and time after time of trying something and then that thing not working for you, in this case, let's talk about getting fitter or getting stronger, then that the belief that you have in yourself, the doubt starts to creep in and you start doubting yourself more and more and more. So then it gets round to 2024, going into 2025. You've done this year in, year out for the last couple of years. And when you're setting your goals this time, you try and set those unrealistic goals that you've said, oh no, last year I said I would do it, this is a year I'm going to do it. So you set it, and then the doubt starts to creep in. But you failed that the last couple of years. Maybe no, you can't do that. And you try, but very quickly you become part of the statistic here that falls off come February. And that is because of the unrealistic goals that can be set. So goals need to be realistic, but there has to be a dream goal that backs it up. Now, I didn't usually believe in this, if I'm being honest, but the dream goal is something to outline. It's like almost the North Star. So you might look up at that mountain or look up at the hill, and it's so far beyond your capabilities. But knowing that is ultimately the end destination of what you're trying to achieve to, start to reverse engineer and break down these smaller steps that you can take. And that can just be looking down one step at a time. Now, the other thing, or the type of mindset that people tend to have in this, is the all or nothing mentality, where they just go too hard in January and burn themselves out. So there's a couple of, they're the kind of main three: too vague, unrealistic, and all or nothing, in with too much gas. And as I said in the preview on this series leading up till now, you can understand why people burn out. But this is why we're doing this. We're trying to interject this normal pattern that seems to happen year in, year out with you, and make a stop and make a change to it. So let's get into it. I'm going to kind of break this down into 3 steps. Now, most likely when we get into January, I'm going to do a bigger deep dive on this topic. But I still wanted to do like a short and sweet episode to give you some food for thought as you go into the period between Christmas and New Year. So starting with your why. The why is the big important thing. It is the North Star. And see, when you're starting this journey out, I don't think it needs to be very, very specific, but have an idea of what it is and constantly keep thinking about it. And the more you do that exercise, the more specific it gets. So for me, when I started out, or when I was in my old job, I wanted to personal train. I just thought, I don't know why. I just want to do it. I just want to do something different. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. The more I kept asking myself, I then found no, I want to actually do this to make a big impact on people's life, people's quality of life, because many more people aren't utilising the gym because they think it's not for them, when in fact it's for everyone. So the goal gets refined more and more and more as we start to do it. But you need to ask yourself why. Why does the goal matter to you? And that's a really uncomfortable question to ask. This exercise as well, this is a good few hours. It's not just a 10-minute exercise. It's something you need to sit down and give yourself the time to plan. Or you give yourself the time to think, should I say. So why does the goal matter to you? Because your why is what's going to keep you going when it gets hard. So let's have 2 camps here, right? So we've got someone who wants to train for their holiday, right? We've got someone that wants to train for the Ibiza getaway in summer. And we got someone else that wants to train because they've noticed that their quality of life is deteriorating a little bit and they can't run around with their grandkids, right? So 2 extreme scenarios and 2 different whys. And not that one person's why is any better than someone else's, but one person that's going to be more consistent is the one that has the stronger why. And usually when it's for the love of friends and family, that's really one of the main drivers that keeps them pushing through those hard days. Because you're going to get hard days. There's going to be difficult days that the doubt creeps in, the lack of confidence comes up, because you've got this track record of you trying something and then failing. But this time is different because you're thinking more so about that why. And that's almost like the mantra or the thing that you're writing down that you can then read back to yourself as to, that's why I'm doing that, because that's what's important to me. It's not my feelings, it's not my emotions, it's not my tiredness. It's my ability to feel that feeling as to what I've written down there. Now, goals can be literally anything, but when it comes to your health and fitness goals, being more specific about the numbers behind something. So you want to lose X amount of body weight. Why? Well, I want to feel better in myself. Well, why? What is it you're not happy? What is the feeling that you don't like feeling just now? I just don't have any energy. So if you woke up with a little bit more energy every single morning, would that be a win? Yes. Right, that becomes the goal. Have more energy when you wake up. That then allows you to start reverse engineering. What's the practices that goes into play with that? Whereas the weight goal, just the very surface level, is too vague. I just want to lose a bunch of weight. It's almost there's different approaches that you can have to that. Now, not that losing weight's a bad goal. It's to give you a bit of food for thought when you're really really redefining the goal setting exercise. Now, you want to focus on the systems, not necessarily the outcome, and that's where you reverse engineer. What's it going to take to get you in that for you to achieve that goal. So an example would be, let's say the weight loss example, you want to lose 5 kilo or you want to lose 10 kilo. Well, it's not the focus and energy shouldn't be dedicated towards the 10 kilo of weight loss. It should be dedicated towards what's the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis to get you there. So there's going to be workout components. How many workout components? How many can you do? You're not doing any, so can we do 2 a week? Right, cool. We're going to do 2 strength workouts per week. And just like I said on the habit side of things, on the 2 episodes ago, track it. What days did you get them in? What days did you not make it? Make sure that you start building a track record up of green ticks or red crosses. And if the week has more red crosses than green ticks initially, that's fine. You just try to kill the momentum and the pendulum swinging so you can go back and get yourself back on track. Now, if you go a couple of weeks down the line and that green tick is becoming fewer and fewer, then that's you starting to fall off a little bit. And it's probably a sign that the initial systems that you put in place are too far out of reach for you just now. Doesn't mean it's going to be forever, but those 2 workouts that you said you do within the week, you're not getting them done. So rather than having so much pressure put on yourself to get them done because you're 3 weeks down the line here and you've not really made it work, let's scale it back to 1 workout. Or do we make it 1 workout in a 15 minute trigger workout, like a shorter session? There's different ways to skin a cat, and that's really what you want to think about. Goals need to be, not that the goal necessarily needs to always change, but the systems that goes into place, the habits and the daily wins that make up that sort of framework to get you towards that goal, that needs to be adaptable and that needs to be interchangeable with the life challenges that comes into play. Because if it's too rigid, then what will happen is just what's happened over the last couple of years, where you've tried something and then when life throws its curveballs, your plan's not being flexible enough and it's not flowing like water, and it's just like, no, I need to get the 5 workouts done, and it leads to burnout, and then it leads to you being back to square one, feeling like a failure, having all this guilt, being depressed, being anxious, and then you're just like, fuck it, this shit's not for me. And that's not gonna, I don't want that life for any of you guys listening to this. And this is ultimately how we start to reverse engineer this. Now, as I said, we all have our tough days, we all have our low days, we all have our challenges. And with each tough day, each challenge, there is opportunity to win. And sometimes the win is, I wanted to get that workout done, but you never got it done. So what can be the win? Well, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I go outdoors and get my 15-minute walk in before the day ends. Right, cool, boom. It's still something that is then done that is towards the goal. It's just been adapted and changed. So yeah, as I said, we need a strong why. We need to understand why that goal matters to us. We're focusing on the systems and the framework, not necessarily the outcome. Then we start to reverse engineer it into these bite-sized wins, these smaller little daily goals and habits that guide us towards that. Because that then builds momentum, and with momentum comes confidence, energy, and us starting to reap the real rewards of why we want to lose that 10 kilos in the first place. Now, there's tons to go in to depth with when we talk about goals, but I want to keep these short and sweet. And I just want to kind of really close on this point. The big goals are achieved by stacking small wins, right? So you need to start with something you can do. And as you do that, those wins start to accumulate. And then before you know it, like the story I told in the other episode, the head's down, one foot's in front of the other. We look up after 5 minutes and we look back and we see how far we've come. You can move very far in your progress without necessarily always looking at the next height, but just keeping your head down, focused on those small wins, those small goals, those small day-to-day habits that you want to include. It's kind of overlapping with what we spoke about in the last episode, so that's why I'm going to keep this a little bit short and sweet. But the homework that I want to have, or what I give you guys, is take an hour out your day, right? Over these next 2 weeks, find an hour. If you are living at home with your partner, do this together. Maybe do it together, but also do it separately, because you need to have goals for yourself, not for other people. That's another thing as well. When people start writing down their whys, it's always about others, but not necessarily fulfilling what they want. So you need to be a little bit selfish at this point, and you can still be selfless, but once you've both written down your goals, come together, speak about them. What is the things you want to do, and what he's going to do to support each other through that? Because another part that plays in this is when you pursue your goals, whether it's fitness, business, career, it's quite lonely because no one else can really understand it understand your journey because you've been so caught in this cycle of just a shit show. And as you try to take yourself out that shit show, everyone in your circle sort of maybe spiraling in there as well. And it can almost seem like, oh, would you think you're too good for us now? And it's not necessarily, that's not the case, or that's not the point that you're trying to make. You're just trying to do it for yourself. And that you need a support network there as well. So finding communities, finding other like-minded individuals that are trying to do the same thing as you can be a big deal breaker on whether you see success or not. There's other things that you can factor in, but take that time out of your day and start to write down a couple of things you want to do for the year of 2025. If you're really struggling with this, think of your North Stars. Think of it like a dream, like a dream as to why that's important to you. Want to achieve your first pull-up. And then if you can't necessarily think of the dream, categorise them, right? There is a book, not a book, sorry, a goal-setting book. I think it's called, it might just be Goal. I'll find a link for it and I'll leave it below. It's on Amazon. I'm sure it's like 15, 20 quid. That's a great place to start. It's got the framework and all that in there. There's one financially. There's one kind of for your friendship side of things, your spirituality, which can just be like general mentality, psychological health, financial health. There's a bunch of different pillars in there. That's a good place to start. Now, don't get me wrong. It's quite a grueling exercise. So the simplistic format might just be the things I want to do with my fitness in 2025. Run a 5K, do a half marathon. Then question yourself more. Why is that important to you? Well, I just think those people embody the healthier lifestyle than what I'm living, right? What would healthy look like for you? Well, I would be hitting this many steps. I'd be eating like this. I'd be doing these sort of habits on a day-to-day basis. Doing all of that will allow you to cut through all the noise and stay streamlined and not fall into the trap that everyone seems to, or the majority of people fall into come February. Now, I'll have a very exciting goal-setting episode coming out in the next couple of weeks where there'll be a coaching opportunity to come through this with me so you can set up for a strong January, essentially. I've done this about a couple of months ago and took a lot of learning away from that. I think I'd bitten off more than I could chew at that point. But essentially I ran like a 30 days get back to it. And I'm going to do something similar for the month of January as well to kind of help you guys navigate the challenges and hit the ground running as you move into the month of January in 2025. But I hope that's given you some food for thought. As always with these episodes, please reach out to me if it's something you're struggling on or you want more clarity on. Then look, I'm all ears. I'm here to hear you out essentially. But remember, you need goals, right? We need that North Star. We need that direction. It's almost like the sat nav being in our car so we can drive the most efficient way from point A to point B. And then once we're at point B, guess what you're doing again? You're re-establishing that goals and you're moving to the next point and the next point. Now, there is a part within the goal setting of feeling like you're never good enough. And that is something that individually we all need to work on. But that's why in your goal side of things, reflection can be key. Gratitude is also key. Like, what's some things you're grateful for? Let's keep more of those things in your life. So I'm grateful that I got out to walk my dog with my wife this morning, right? There's some things that I really enjoy doing, so I'm going to do more of that. Look back in the year, what were some of the highlights of the year? How do I do more of that going forward in 2025? Everything's going to be around financial and freedom and time and all this sort of stuff, but dive deeper. Literally scratch the itch that gives you that fun, confidence, happiness, because what's life without it? And on that note, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find me at Coach Crossar on Instagram. Follow the at Bulletproof Mindset __ page. And I will see you guys on the next one.